Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future. These are my stories of choice, change and action, along with the phenomenal guests I have on here. From a really young age, I've always desired to create a change in the world. The planet has been a constant inspiration to me, and Access Consciousness has shown me the tools to know that anything is possible. And I keep choosing. What are you going to choose? Hello, everybody. Welcome to Choice, Change and Action podcast. You are with me, Simone Milasas, your host, and I am in Chaos Sunshine Coast at the moment in Australia. I love it. The whole day has just been, and if you're watching me on YouTube, you see I keep looking to the right because that's where the beach is. And the whole day has been like just this howling winds and rain. There's a few places flooding. There's trees that have come down. Every beach on the Sunshine Coast is closed. I went and looked at the beach and it's incredible. It's like there's huge waves, but they're going all over the place. It's just absolutely chaos. And this big gray like sky that's coming in. It's like, talk about one of those moments where you go, yep, the planet is the one, the earth is the one that knows what it's choosing. So I think it's amazing. I've actually had to do a few errands today, and people, every time I arrive somewhere, they're like, how is it out there? And I'm like, it's amazing. And there's idiots out there because people go, oh, I can't drive now. I've got to drive at the speed of a snail. No, you don't. It's like, be aware, but come on. So anyway, that's where I am. And I think you, Melanie Meade, welcome. You're in Dublin. And is it hotter than hell there at the moment?
I'm in Cork, and we have had a heat wave, but I laugh because every time I tell you we have a heat wave, you'd still be wearing like big woolly coats and jumpers.
Let me have a look right now. Tell me, what's the Celsius there?
It's I'll tell you now.
Because I do think it's funny. It's all perspective.
Well, today is actually a lovely mild day. It's the morning here and it's 14 degrees and we're going to get a high of 19, which here is like a lovely day. But at the weekend we had 30 and the UK had 40. That we were hitting our like highest temperatures.
I know, and I heard that even the trains in England stopped because apparently when it gets too hot, the rail lines buckle or something. I was talking to a friend of mine here. It's so funny because we handle heat so well, but we don't handle cold so well. And we've had like some of the coldest spells here. They're calling it like the Arctic weather or something like that. And then you guys have had this heat. We've got 16 degrees at the moment, and says Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology, severe weather warning for damaging wind, severe weather warning for damaging surf. It's so dramatic. But here's the thing. It's like, it's so, like I said, it's so in like, if you look at the perspective of it all, it's like one person's point of view to another person's point of view. And I know one of the things that, of what you can handle and what you like, like the amount of people complaining today. And I was like, I love it. It's like, it's just got this, like we were saying before we started, this force of nature energy that's just like, yes, my electricity's gone out twice today. My Wi-Fi went out. I was like, what am I, in South Africa or something? And we've got the, the loading, etc. But it's, you just go, okay, so here we go. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and which I get is sort of along this element as well, is we were talking about out of the box thinkers. Mm-hmm. Now, Mel, I'd love to ask you, it's like, I know you're an out of the box thinker. Like, I've been working with you for quite some time. When did you realize that you were an out of the box thinker?
I didn't. Do
you now?
To a degree, I definitely would. Like, as in, I suppose the way I would have looked at it was, you'd have this idea or this thought and you go, this is so different. But I never looked at something as, here, Simone, this is such a different concept, it'll blow your mind. It was more like, here it is. And then people would be like scratching their heads or going, I never looked at it that way. And I'm like, really? Because to me, it was just like breathing. Do you know what I mean? It was like something that I would think of, would pop in my head. I would say it. To me, it would sound normal. Usually the things I think are the weirdest are the things that people think are normal, because you're so used to like kind of going, oh, I'm a bit weird, heads up, this is weird. And people are like, no, that's normal. But it was the stuff that I thought was normal was actually things that was different about me or different about what I brought to things. And it's only through feedback, like not like you need people to like give you a list of what you're weird at, but through people's feedback or reactions or like further extrapolation, you'd start to see that you are very different. Or when there's conversations going on, I was like, why do I always like appear against or different, or, you know, like have such an awkward point of view on things, where actually it was just a different one that maybe people weren't looking at. So I had like a lot of judgments of myself too. And I suppose paying attention to those things started to show me they're not awkward, they're not wrong. Yes, they're not for everyone. They're just different.
Yeah, look, I think that's a really big topic as well, because I get a lot of people when they're not on the same page as, you know, as you say, especially in business and in different projects and business meetings, it's like then the first thing people start to do is go to the wrongness of them or go to fight for their point of view. Like even this morning, we had a meeting this morning and we were talking about something, because you're on my, we call it conglomeration of idiots. There's a whole bunch of idiots that's heading in the same direction, and you're on my COI for short. And there was one thing that we were talking about, and it's not really that relevant, but I noticed that it was like so many different points of view. And I was like, well, let's just ask for it to land. And when I say let's ask for it to land, I mean, like, let's include all of our awareness today and tomorrow, you know, past, present, and future, and also ask the universe to contribute and show us, like, will this actually create something greater? Because that's the conglomeration of idiots. We are heading in this direction of, we desire to create something greater. So what is that going to be? It could be, you know, Mel, myself, you know, Sarah, Becky, Paula, Wes, Fer, like any of those people who have this point of view that goes, oh, that, you know, and allowing that to show up. So one of the things I wanted to also cover with you too is like this, because you are different to work with. Yes. And it's like, and you are one of the most creative people I know. Like you'll go over here and just be like, create. And then you can't hear you necessarily. Like I lie. You can't hear you like you would hear other people who are trying to prove sometimes that they're actually doing something. Whereas you'll just go over, it's like quite like the kid in the corner just going, look what I created. And it's just got this like magical energy to it. When did you sort of like, when did you discover that? And also what would you say to people who are noticing that they may have that same sort of capacity?
If I was to kind of really think really far back for me, and like everyone will have a different trait, but for me it was daydreaming. Because I was laughing when you were talking there. It's like, you know, I might like, you know, so I could sit and look like I was doing nothing, but sometimes you could see my face. Like I'm a, how would you put it, an expressive thinker. Like when people are talking.
So you're not a good poker player, basically.
No, like my face just goes through the whole spectrum. And it's not even if something is bad, it's just like, it's almost like I'm like, I just, because I catch all the things, like this is something I've learned about myself. I will listen to all the stuff and I kind of go, like that's literally what's going on, because I'm listening to everything. And I kind of look at what's true for me. And is there a space here that I could insert my awareness? Do you know what I mean? Because
I love that.
you described the conglomeration of idiots. The more we talk about that, the funnier it sounds, but the truer it becomes. Because one thing that you, and I'm going slightly off track, but I do want to bring this up because we kind of touched on it a second ago, was you actually encourage us to all share our different points of view. So it's not like, could you even said it on a meeting recently, you're like, we all don't have to agree. So it's not like, I'll come on and say it, and this is the way that it is. Like everyone will share their bits. And then from there, we'll actually look at what's going to work. So it's not like I'm bringing my whole entire idea to you. This is how I see it. This is my awareness. And then including everyone allows something greater to show up. Again, that took a long time to realize that I could be a part of kind of that kind of process. Because, you know, growing up or whatever, everything was natural, everything was normal. I just thought the way that I thought. And then as you go through the world and you have to, like, education systems, always a really good example, you have to provide what they need. So there's a lot of fitting. You could talk about that all day long. That did kill it, very much so. And that's probably where a lot of the judgment and the wrongness would have stepped in. But really, it wasn't until it was more a knowing. I knew something inside me. I was working a government job. My son was in school, so I didn't work necessarily part-time, but I worked shorter hours to suit to pick him up. And then when his school day was extending, I was like, if I go back there full-time, one, it's boring. Two, the tax man's going to take away all the bit extra that I earn. I'd only be going back full time because it was the normal thing to do. And I was like, there's something else there for me. No idea what it was. Didn't grow up with any kind of like, you know, particular, when my son is reared, I want to do a particular job. So basically it was following the energy. And that's literally how a lot of what I do now showed up. And it was actually just through exploration and kind of how there's a courage that is required to trust yourself, no matter what anyone else tells you, because people will give you feedback and it can be extremely positive and constructive, and it can also be extremely negative, but you really have to look at what's true for you. And it's really good to see what's going on. So like, if you're saying to me, oh, Melanie, you're brilliant, I should not define myself by walking around saying I'm brilliant. Or if you're saying, Melanie, you're an absolutely crazy person with the worst ideas ever, I shouldn't go around, because that's just your way of looking at things. So it's really about like kind of tapping into what's true for you and then moving with that. But I think one of the greatest things, and I find it very difficult to talk about, but I seem to be talking about a lot of recently, is it's way more energetic than it is doing. So for me, the way I like to create, what I know, how I bring it to the table, because the less charge and judgment you have in it, the easier it is actually to create with it. But like it precedes the doing in business, in life, in everything. So I really sit and look at what's true for me. And if there's areas that I need to work on, or I notice I have a judgment on, I will look at it. Now, I don't wait until that's all, you know, good and perfect and clear, but more having the awareness that it's there, and then, you know, you just keep moving. So I realized that wasn't normal when I spoke to people, because people had things like plans, or they knew what to do, or they knew how things should look. They knew what was wrong. They knew what to be fixed. And I always noticed I never looked at things as problems. You know, people were like, this is wrong, we need to fix it. And I'm like, oh, this is going on right now. You know, what else is possible? Because I found that that's where out of the box thinkers can thrive, is that they will think or work or create beyond the issue at hand. Because what we're trying to fix sometimes is a problem, and maintaining, I suppose, something that's going on, rather than kind of leapfrogging it and actually going a step further. And working with you guys as well, like, we very much push the boundaries, we go beyond them. You know what I mean? You can't be a normal thinker or like plaster over stuff. You sometimes have to completely just like let it go and just like run with something as it shows up. But again, not from the significance of something being different or being so out of the box. I think sometimes the more you define it, it's probably the less magical it is. It's usually just, it's like poof, and things show up, you know what I mean? So there's that, that's where I think people might find it challenging for themselves to put themselves in situations where, you know, you're working or creating or living that way. But also it's probably the fastest and the most fun way to move with stuff. Yeah.
You've said some really key elements here though too, Melanie. Is one, I mean, you said really early on in the piece, it's like not judging you, and also the points of view that people have about you. It's like, you know, you can hear them, but don't take them on. It's like being true to you. I absolutely love that. And it's something I've been looking at a lot lately too, like what is true for me, because I am surrounded by a lot of different people. I work, you know, with a lot of different people, meet a lot of different people all around the world. And there was this moment where it was like, wow, I'm choosing to fulfill other people's needs rather than being aware of their needs, and then choosing what is true for me. And two of the questions that I've been using, ladies and gentlemen, is what would make me happy? And what would I like to choose? And they're two really simple questions. But if you wake up each day and ask what would make you happy and what would you like to choose, it leads into that road of what Melanie's talking about, of what is true for you. And the way I look at this too is when you are being true to you and choosing what makes you happy, it opens up to a whole bigger universe for you and for others as well. Because I know I prefer to work with people who are not coming in proving something or trying to fight, etc. It's like they can be as weird as they want, as different as they want, as normal as they want, whatever, as long as they're being true to them. It's more of a contribution, because you're like, oh, that capacity, this. It's almost like this chessboard of players, and you start to play together and look at the moves that different people are making, and it's like, oh, what are we going to create together? You know, and we are obviously talking about business at the moment, but you can be referring to your whole entire life. It's like, you know, how are you going to live? What are you going to choose here? So I love the way you're referring to this with the out of the box daydreamers and out of the box thinkers. And you said something about like, is there something else for me? And I really like the way you said that, because I don't get that many people are in question about that. I think there's a lot of people who sort of did what they thought they were meant to do, like, you know, however they grew up, in whatever, you know, poor, you know, wealthy, or you know, in a sort of medium class family, etc. And then with that comes a whole lot of, this is what you're supposed to do. And rather than looking at, is there something else for me? So what is something you can talk to about that? And also any of the questions or the tools that you would use if someone's listening to this going, yeah, what if there is something else for me? And I want to say, not by fighting for it. Okay. It's to me, it's not this like, right, I'm done, hands on hips, petulant, you know, storming out, like I'm choosing for me. It's like, no, that's not what Melanie and I are referring to. We're more like, look deep and actually have a look at, you know, is there something else for you, and what would work for you?
Yeah, it's like an unfolding or a discovery, because if you go like, you know, that A to Z, you just said, oh, screw this, I'm, you know, leaving my job, or I'm leaving my marriage, or, you know, I'm just going to give everything away. You've already decided what things might look like. And I know like a lot of the, you know, when you facilitate relationships done different and choice of possibilities and joy of business. And in there, a lot of the times when you watch people's worlds kind of start to crack open to like, there are different possibilities. The fastest route is to just decide that it's going to be the opposite to what you're choosing now. You know what I mean? We're actually, sometimes if you really sit with something, it'll show itself to you if you kind of, you know, kind of go with the flow, basically. Like I would have, I stayed in my day job for about 2 years before I actually left it to move, you know, into working more with access consciousness and things like that. So it wasn't just like an immediate, like quit and go, but like I still do, he's grown up. I have a son. I had to take care of him. I had to pay the bills. I had to get him through school. I had to look at what future was available to him, you know, if it was university, and, you know, like there's all financial considerations, and that would have shaped a lot of the way I made choices. But the turning point was, I remember when I was looking at like moving from a secure government job into something a little bit more entrepreneurial, let's say, it was, would you ever see yourself homeless? And the answer is no. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you start looking at the safety of what you're choosing rather than the adventure that you can have, you know what I mean? They're two different things. And I noticed, like I had quite an interesting couple of years in that, I think it was about 4 years ago, I got a virus, but I couldn't shake it off. So I was constantly getting ill. There was always like, I had stuff going on with my body and I was really tired. And like, if I had the government job, I could have taken 6 months off, you know, they would have paid me for a certain amount of it. But I didn't have that level kind of security and stuff. But what occurred with me and my body taught me an awful lot about that saying about, would you see yourself homeless? It wasn't that I got up and like I was sick and I fought all the time. It was almost the opposite. I had to dig deeper into what was true for me and what I knew was possible. And I suppose there's things that we daydream and think of in our head, or we say to ourselves that we mightn't openly admit to other people. Or we pay.
Oh God, there's a lot. I think
Yeah.
we need to acknowledge that. Like, how much shit do you have going on in your own life that you don't admit to anyone else, because you're like, oh my God, people are gonna like come and send the guy in the white jacket and tie me up and take me away or something like that. Or it's like you don't think it's acceptable. And Mel, I so get that now is the space and now is the time for us to actually stand up and go, what is true for me? So yeah, sorry, go on. I just
No, you're fine. But it is a thing. Like I even noticed recently, like, you know, if you were to say like, you know, even what would you like to create in the world? And it's not just your job or world peace. Like for me, there was always this energy, and like, I always knew there was this energy there. And then through life and through circumstance and things that would occur, you would have felt, yeah, I'm weird. I'm different. I think different. This is probably like, just like, you know, like your imaginary friend, this imaginary conversation you have in your head. But the more I started going on that adventure of living, not even in business, you start to see, actually, you know what? There's something there. You know what I mean? Like, as in, and it's not about like curing world diseases necessarily or world hunger. It's actually you showing up as you in the world and speaking to the possibility that you know is available, just energetically, not like, again, this, oh, here's this pretty packaged thing. You start seeing things change. Like I have seen, there is a place for what I have to say. There is a place for the information that I have. Correct, it's not for everyone. Also, might not always be the one that we run with, but just knowing that you having that awareness is a contribution to things moving forward. Like there's times we'd be on meetings and somebody would say something else, and that would actually enhance or grow the information that I have. So it's, again, conglomeration of idiots, all of us kind of, moving together. Yeah. But I do think it's time to actually really look at what is true for you, the bottom line.
Yeah. And as you're saying that too, it's like, I so get that there's a level of trust that you have to have of yourself as well. Like a level of trust to sort of go, okay, I'm going to have a look at what's true for me and I'm going to start to choose that. Mm-hmm. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, it's like Mel said before, it's not like you have to go, right, that's it, I'm leaving my job, I'm getting divorced, I'm moving house, I'm whatever, it's like, you don't have to throw everything away. But what if you started to look at your whole entire life and sort of look at each aspect and go, okay, is this working for me? Like, is the relationship working for me? Doesn't mean you have to leave it. But what if it's not, is there something that you could change in it? Is there something that you could ask for? Is there something that you could do and be different with it? Money. It's like, I recently just did a Getting Out of Debt Joyfully class, and it was amazing. There's actually been a few people that I know in life, and I've known them for quite some time, and they did the class and they're always bitching and moaning and whinging about money. And it's always this, they've got their story down, about why they're the victim of they can't have money and da. And I'm always like, okay. And they're not really asking me any questions. And every now and then I'd throw something in. And these two people in my life that are like that have both come to me and gone, oh my God, so much change for me with Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. One of them literally had a whole bunch of money show up. And the other one, I can see, as you mentioned before, it's so energetic. I can see this energetic change in their world where they're like, oh, I get it. I can spend all this energy complaining about what I don't have, or I can actually have this relaxation in this space in my world and put some energy into what is it that I could create? What is it that I could choose? And what is it I could create different here? And it's the same thing with business. It's like, is your business working for you? Like Mel said, it's not about having to fix something. But what if you look at, is it time for a change? And so many people are not willing to have that change show up, or really just be willing to let go of everything and go, okay, I'm going to let go of everything and see what shows up. Because what if you were willing to let go of everything and then you found out what was true for you as well? Like, I spoke to a friend yesterday and they recently split up in their relationship, and they were sort of wondering if they should sort of go back to this person. I said, well, why don't you indulge? And this is a great tool, guys. It's like anything. If you want to like move house, relationship, job, anything. If you have the space, indulge for 3 days in choosing that. Like, but really indulge in, yes, I'm choosing this. And then you'll get this download of different things, and you'll be like, oh, and then you'll start to get this download and this energy of how your life would be. And then the next 3 days, indulge in not choosing it and allow yourself that space to not choose it, and then see what would show up as well. Because we tend to get so much in our heads and trying to work everything out and trying to make the right choice and make sure everybody else around us is okay with our choices, rather than, if I was true to me, what's actually going to create my life to be better and greater. Like, I don't want to be, on my deathbed going, damn, I wish I'd chosen that, or I wish I'd done that. I'd like to be on my deathbed going, excellent, 10 out of 10. I lived a life that I'm so proud of, and I had so much fun living. And what if that's what your life was about?
Yeah.
So any tools or anything like that that you've got to offer people who are sort of listening to us going, damn, talking about me?
One, you are not alone, because when you are that
Yes.
different, or you think things in ways that other people don't, you're definitely not alone. One of the things that was popping to there, when we were saying like that either or, so you're going from oh no to screw everything, it's actually the space from which you choose. So it's really like, if you're looking to change something, you know, like a relationship's a good example because it involves an other person. So it's not like they're wrong, but if you really look, like if you chose something from the space of security or normalcy, it doesn't mean your relationship is over. It's that awareness. It's like, hey, actually, you know what, I'm making these choices, and I don't know, like say they don't like doing something you want to do and you're like, oh, this is never going to work. But it's really looking at, hey, you know, looking at that space of where did I cut myself off? And so it's never about they're doing this and they're wrong and this is what needs to change and that needs to go away for me to have more. It's more this kind of like, if you looked at the way that you kind of walk through the world, and it's that space from which you choose, like I'm laughing because I just said there's things you say in your head that you never say out loud, and I'm like, all of a sudden my mouth went, that's too weird. But it's for me.
But what you just said.
Yeah. No, what
I
was about to say was like,
oh, okay. What are you going to say? Tell us.
It's the energy that you be, because a lot of the times we look at the tools for the stuff to make the money, to have the success, to get the relationship, to, I don't know, live the dream or whatever. But again, for me, it always comes back to like the platform from which you're creating your life is that energy that you walk through the world with and see yourself as. And like for me, a lot of it's very sensory, like, so I would sense a lot of the way. So that's the way that I would definitely kind of, when I talk about it, that's kind of where I would go with it. But it's really that way that you move and you see, but also being really aware of when things show up. Like if you look at it a bit like the weather you're having right now, it's all wind and waves and sun. And like, if you could just sense it all.
No. There's no sun.
No sun. I have sun. I have sun.
You have sun. Yeah.
You have sun tomorrow. But
yes.
You know, like when you treat everything like that, that's going on around you, like the weather, and you can put a coat on when you need to, or put an umbrella up, you'll know what way works for you. But if you looked at business and life and parenting and whatever you want to create as a way you move through the world, with knowing what you know is possible, it'll start to show up. I'm not walking around going, Simone, I'm going to be able to do this by the time I die. This is the thing that's going to be done. And this is the thing I know I'm here to bring. I'm like, let it unfold. The way I look at it is when you're on that creative edge, you're an out of the box thinker. It's something that hasn't existed before. How can you define or map that out or create it in a way, in all the ways it's been created before, when it's that different or that unique? You know what I mean? There's a part of really embrace that process.
Yeah. Yeah. And can I just add here too, guys, it's like, as Mel's talking and you're like, but she's not giving me a how. She actually is. She's giving you the tools to relax and be that space and allow it to unfold. And the mantra of access consciousness is all of life comes to us with ease and joy and glory. So even if you say that 10 times in the morning and 10 times at night, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. All of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. And be in that space and let it unfold. I love the way you're talking about this, because it is really simple and we tend to make it so difficult and so hard. And I know we touched on it at the beginning. It's like, you know, trying to make things hard or make them difficult so that we can align with this reality, with society, and have this proving energy or this doing, or like and it's like the validation, rather than, what if you were never seeking validation? And what if you were allowing life to unfold? And as you said before, it's like digging deep and allowing the cracks that are open, the doors that are open, let them be open. And what can you receive from those doors that you've already opened? And you've chosen them. You chose for those doors to be open. Your choices will create how your life shows up. So it's like, you know, get off your butt and start choosing. And it could just be, I'm choosing ease today. You know, I'm choosing greater. I'm choosing something different today. So I'm actually choosing something else for me today. Like you said, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mel, you're amazing.
Just the one thing to finish on too, like my brain will still go look at a how, or, you know what I mean? Like there's moments that, you know, like there's a part of us that still does that. And that's okay. You know, and that's where I would check in with myself and kind of go, hang on, that's not what's true for you. And it's really, you know, kind of, it's an ongoing adventure. Like we don't come on here and speak with answers. We speak to possibilities and for people to bring forward. And again, when we talk about our koi meetings and stuff, what are we aware of? You know what I mean? And not decide that when you bring an idea or a concept or and energy forward, that's the way that it is. Again, it's a constant unfolding. And actually, I find that that's really relaxing once you start to allow that in your life.
Yeah, me too. It's like that
Body.
unfolding. And if you're not vested in the outcome of having something show up, because there's so many ideas that we have, and there's so many different creative capacities. And just because you have it, it doesn't mean it has to come into fruition today. It could be for the future, but also don't go to like negating it and going, oh, well, that didn't work, or nobody likes that idea, etc. No, it's like, let it sit there. It's like, you know, there's a whole universe out there of possibilities. Let it be there and allow it to show up when it's meant to show up. A question that I've been asking nearly every day this week is, universe, show me something beautiful.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think it's a, and here I am in chaos storm. No. Universe, show me something beautiful. But it shows up. It never shows up the way you think it's going to show up, as Dr. Dane here said, which I absolutely love that, because it doesn't. Life does not show up the way you think it's going to show up. There's not one day in your whole entire life that you've woken up and gone, this is the way my day is going to look. And then you go to bed at night and go, yep, turned out exactly the same. No, it doesn't work like that. So what if you started being in that adventure called living?
Mm-hmm.
So Melanie, thank you so much for coming on here. Where can people find you?
Oh, I laugh. I tell people I'm a little bit, first I laugh because I started in social media and I work with putting people out into the world. I'm very off the grid. I am get to my DMs kind of person. So yeah, but like people, like if everyone wants to reach out or anything, Instagram's probably the best way to find me. It's Melanie P. Meade. And but like these conversations are like my favorite things in the world to have. And I get we've really just touched the iceberg. Yeah. And that's what I love about Joy of Business and Business Done Different. I did one with you years ago, and I think I felt like the stupidest person in the class. But I just,
it was in Dublin, right?
In Dublin, yeah.
I remember where you were sitting.
Where I was sitting. I remember.
No, I remember you.
Yeah. Oh, you do. I see. Yeah. But no, it was kind of like, because I knew I had something with business. And again, it was just one of those things where, you know, you show up and you explore or whatever. But that's what I just wanted to say. It's like we've tipped the iceberg on being different or creating something very unique, that unique to you or unique for the world or whatever. And like, that's what I was just about to say with like things like Business Done Different, because that's what, like, before it had a different name, but it's like, that's where you can get in, roll up your sleeves, explore.
Oh my God, kind of absolutely.
Get dirty and, you know, really kind of muck in and see what's true for you. I think being around people and talking to people and listening to people that, you know, speak to a possibility, you know, it's possible, is very liberating. There's just something knowing that there's other people in the world that are asking for something greater.
I was going to say, what if it looks like nothing like you think it's going to look like? So I'm actually doing a Business Done Different class. I'm doing two, one in August and one in October. And the one in August is in Noosa, Australia, and they're both online as well. The one in October is actually in Texas in a place called Libreville, at Gary Douglas and Dan Here's ranch. So that's going to be there. But they're both, like I said, online and live too. So if you want to find out more about it, we'll have it in the links below, but it's SimoneMilasas.com/BDD. You can also go to accessjoybusiness.com, and there's a lot of amazing Joy Business facilitators there. So if one of them pings you and you want to go do a class with them, do that too. My desire really is to get these access consciousness tools out there and in business. You know, with this, you know, if you haven't got it, buy the Joy Business book. It's brilliant. I actually just had someone pinging me today, just going, oh my God, I've just read that book again. I think I finally started receiving it. And I was like, cool. You get it when you get it, and you hear it when you hear it. And if you wake up and you have that place, if you know that there's something different, or like Mel said, there's something else for me. What if you started with this and just like let all your barriers down? And, you know, when you hear me say barriers and you're like, what do you mean barriers? All those limitations. It's like everything around you that's got that like crunchy vibe. It's like, just be like, you know what? I'm going to destroy and uncreate everything that this is. And I'm going to find out what it's like to be true to me. And I'm going to choose for me, no matter how different that is. And no matter who gets it and who doesn't, it's like, choose for you. So, yeah. So thank you so much, Mel, for joining me here. You are an absolute gem. I adore you. And thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me talk.
And oh, ladies and gentlemen, also you might want to check out, you've got my Instagram handle, Simone Milasas, but we've also started Choice, Change and Action for the podcast. So the podcast having its own Instagram. So it's in its like baby stages, but please go follow, do all of that. And who knows what it's going to be. It's a discovery for us as well. So thank you for being here, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at Simone Milasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at Choice, Change and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes. And lastly, have way too much fun today.